Hey guys! Tonight we slip back to a time when the world was softer, muddier, and a whole lot wilder. Around 10,000 BC, where a riverbank in Mesopotamia hums with life. Picture this. You're crouched by a lazy, sun-warmed river, reeds tickling your ankles, the air thick with the scent of wet earth and wild barley. A woman kneels nearby, her hands slick with clay, shaping something that'll change everything. You're about to witness the birth of the first ceramic bowl, a humble lump of mud that'll outlast empires. Fair warning though, survive a day here without Wi-Fi or a decent pair of shoes and you're tougher than a mammoth-side. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. I'm curious where you're drifting off from tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing on the banks of a river in Mesopotamia, where the water glints like polished obsidian under a relentless sun. It's the Neolithic period, and the world is waking up from its nomadic haze. People are starting to settle, trading endless wandering for patches of land where wild grains whisper promises of food. You're not alone here. Villagers bustle nearby, weaving baskets, sharpening flint, or chasing kids who are definitely not helping. The woman beside you, let's call her Ara, is focused, her fingers digging into the riverbank's clay, thick and cool, like nature's own dough. She's not just playing in the mud, she's on to something big. You can feel the weight of this moment, like the air before a storm. This isn't just any clay, it's the perfect mix, smooth, pliable, not too gritty. Ara scoops it up, her hands moving with a rhythm that feels older than time itself. You notice the way she tests it, squishing it between her fingers, sniffing it like a chef checking dough. She's not inventing pottery from scratch. She's building on what her people already know. Baskets lined with clay to hold water? Old news. But Ara's got a spark of genius. She's thinking about fire, about how it hardens things, like the sun-baked mud bricks they use for shelters. You catch her muttering to herself, maybe to the river gods, who knows? It's 10,000 BC, and divine tech support is about as reliable as a dial-up connection. Here's a solid fact. Ceramic bowls like the one Ara's dreaming up popped up around 10,000 BC in the Middle East and East Asia, marking a shift from nomadism to settled life. People needed ways to store food and cook, and clay was their answer. But here's a quirky tidbit. Some scholars think early potters like Ara might have stumbled on ceramics by accident, maybe noticing how clay hardened near a campfire. Historians still argue whether this was a single eureka moment or a slow collective discovery across villages. You watch Ara's Hanans and it feels less like a lightning bolt of inspiration and more like a quiet, stubborn experiment. You're drawn to the scene around you. The river's edge is alive. Fish dart in the shallows, birds squawk overhead, and somewhere a goat is definitely eating something it shouldn't. Ara's not alone in her work. Other women nearby weave reeds or grind grain with stones, their chatter a soft hum. You notice a kid, maybe 7, mimicking Ara, shaping his own lumpy clay blob. It's a mess, but you grin. Future potter or future troublemaker? Hard to tell. Ara doesn't scold him. She just nudges his hands, showing him how to smooth the edges. You're struck by how this moment feels like a relay race, knowledge passing from one set of hands to another. The sun's dipping now, painting the sky gold and pink. Ara's clay pile is growing, and you realize she's not just making one bowl. She's testing shapes, sizes, maybe even dreaming of a whole set. You imagine her serving porridge to her family, the first hot meal in a container that won't leak or burn. But you're getting ahead of yourself. Right now, it's just you, Ara, and a riverbank full of possibilities. The clay is cool under your fingers as you kneel beside her, tempted to try it yourself. Would you shape a bowl? Or something totally impractical like a clay smartphone? Yeah, good luck getting a signal out here.
You're still crouched by that Mesopotamian river, the air heavy with the scent of damp earth and the faint tang of smoke from a distant fire. Ara, the woman shaping the future one handful of clay at a time, is now your guide. She's not just messing around, she's teaching you how to mold this sticky grayish mud into something useful, something that'll hold its shape. You're elbow deep in this stuff, and it's messier than you expected, like trying to sculpt wet cookie dough. Ara's hands move with confidence, though, and you're trying to keep up without looking like you've never touched dirt before. Spoiler, you're not fooling anyone. Ara pats the clay into a flat disc, then starts pinching it upward. Her finger is steady but gentle, like she's coaxing the earth to listen. You mimic her, but your lump looks more like a squashed pancake than a bowl. She glances over, her eyes crinkling with what might be amusement or pity, hard to tell in 10,000 BC. Slow, she says, or at least that's what you imagine her saying, since language back then was more grunt than TED Talk. You try again, pressing your thumbs into the center, pulling the edges up. It's starting to look like, well, not a bowl, but maybe a very sad cup. Ara nods, which you take as a win. This is the heart of it. Shaping the first ceramic bowl wasn't just about slapping clay together. It required finesse, a feel for the material. Historical fact, early pottery, like what you're attempting, emerged around 10,000 BC in places like Mesopotamia and East Asia, often shaped by hand without fancy tools. People like Ara used simple techniques, pinching, coiling, or pressing, to form vessels that could hold grain or water. But here's a quirky tidbit. Some early potters might have used their own hair or plant fibers to strengthen the clay, like adding rebar to concrete. You glance at Ara's braid, wondering if she's planning to sacrifice a lock for this project. Probably not. She seems too practical for that. You're starting to get the hang of it, though. Your fingers are caked in clay, and you're pretty sure some smeared on your face. Ara shows you how to smooth the surface with a flat stone, scraping away imperfections. It's meditative, almost ASMR-worthy, the soft scrape of stone on clay. You imagine recording this for a modern audience. Clay scratching sounds to help you sleep. It'd probably go viral. But out here, it's just you, Ara, and the river's gentle gurgle. The sun's high now, baking the ground, and you're sweating through your imaginary Neolithic tunic. Ara doesn't seem fazed, her focus unbroken. You wonder if she knows this bowl could outlast her village, maybe even her entire culture. Historians still argue whether pottery like this was invented by one genius or spread through shared ideas across settlements. Did Ara learn from someone else, or is she the spark? You watch her work, and it feels like a bit of both. She's experimenting, but she's also part of something bigger, a network of early settlers swapping tricks. You notice others nearby, some shaping clay into crude figures, maybe offerings for the gods. One guy's attempt looks suspiciously like a lopsided cow. You stifle a laugh. Art critique probably isn't a thing yet, but if it was, he'd be getting some side-eye. Your bowl's taking shape now, lumpy but functional. Ara shows you how to coil a rope of clay, spiraling it upward to build the walls higher. It's slow, deliberate, like knitting with mud. You're tempted to rush, but her calm pace grounds you. The village hums around you. Kids chase each other, someone's pounding grain, and a dog, or is it a wolf, naps in the shade. You realize this bowl isn't just a tool, it's a piece of this community, a way to hold their harvests, their meals, their lives. Your modern brain can't help but draw parallels. Imagine inventing the Tupperware of the Neolithic. Patent that and you're set for life. As you smooth your bowl's rim, you catch Ara smiling faintly. Maybe she's proud, or maybe she's just glad you're not ruining her clay stash. Either way, you're part of this moment, hands in the earth, shaping something that'll outlive you. The river keeps flowing, indifferent to your progress, and you wonder what comes next. Will this thing even survive a fire? Spoiler alert, you're about to find out.
You're still by that Mesopotamian river, the sun now a fiery orb dipping toward the horizon, casting long shadows over the clay-slicked ground. Your hands are still tacky from molding that lumpy bowl with Era, and it's sitting there, looking like a kindergartner's art project, but with potential. Now, though, Era's leading you toward a new challenge, the fire. You follow her to a clearing where a pit smolders, ringed with stones and piled with dry reeds and wood. The air smells sharp, like charred grass and anticipation. You're about to see your bowl, or what's left of it, face the flames. If this goes wrong, you're back to square one, and nobody's got time for that in the Neolithic. Era sets your bowl, still soft and damp, near the fire pit, but not too close. You notice she's got a few other clay shapes, bowls, cups, maybe a weird proto-mug, lined up like soldiers awaiting inspection. She's not just throwing them into the flames like some barbecue sacrifice. She's strategic, placing them where the heat will kiss them dry without cracking them. You're impressed, but also nervous. Your bowl's in there, and you're not sure it's ready for this glow-up. The fire crackles, spitting embers that dance like fireflies, and you feel the heat prickling your skin. It's like standing too close to a campfire, except this one's about to birth history. Here's the deal. Firing clay was the game changer around 10,000 BC. Baking those early ceramic bowls in controlled fires turned soft mud into something hard, waterproof, and durable, perfect for storing grain or cooking. That's the mainstream fact, straight from the archaeological record. But here's a quirky tidbit. Some early potters might have used dung as fuel for their fires because it burns slow and steady. You glance at the fire pit, wondering if air is burning anything questionable. Let's just say the smell isn't entirely woodsy, and you're not asking for details. You watch Era tend the fire like a pro, adding sticks with the precision of a chef tweaking a recipe. She's not just guessing, she knows how hot it needs to get, probably from trial and error. You imagine her first attempts, cracked bowls, smoky disasters, maybe a few choice Neolithic curses. Historians still argue whether firing techniques spread through trade or if different groups stumbled onto the same idea independently. Did Era's village figure this out, or did a wandering trader spill the beans? You don't know, but you're rooting for her to be the mastermind. The fire's glow paints Era's face, her eyes reflecting the flames as she watches the clay. You're mesmerized by the process, how something so fragile can become so strong. Your bowl's starting to change, its surface drying to a pale gray, but it's not done yet. Era explains, or maybe you're just guessing her gestures, that the real magic happens when the clay hits a certain heat, transforming it chemically. You nod like you understand, but honestly, you're just trying not to burn your imaginary sandals. Modern you is thinking about kilns and precise temperatures, but Era's working with what she's got: fire, instinct, and a whole lot of patience. You can't help but joke to yourself. This is the original bake-off, except the prize is survival, not a shiny trophy. The village around you feels alive in the firelight. Someone's singing a low, rhythmic tune. Kids are still running around. Seriously, don't they ever sleep? And the river hums in the background. You notice another villager poking at the fire. Maybe Era's partner in crime, making sure the heat's just right. It's a team effort, and you're part of it, even if your job is mostly, don't drop the bowl. As the night deepens, the fire's warmth wraps around you like a blanket. Your bowl's starting to look legit, harder, less like a mud pie. Era's other creations are holding up too, their surfaces cracking slightly but not shattering. You're tempted to high-five her, but you settle for a nod. This fire is not just cooking clay, it's cooking up a revolution. You think about that clay smartphone you jokingly imagined earlier. Okay, maybe not practical, but this bowl, it's about to change how Era's family eats, stores, and lives. You're itching to see it in action, filled with steaming porridge or precious seeds. But for now, you wait, the fire's glow pulling you into a sleepy trance.
You're still in that Mesopotamian village. the fire's glow fading to a soft pulse as the night settles in, wrapping the world in a cool, starry blanket. Your bowl, now hardened by the flames, sits proudly among Ara's creations, its surface rough but solid, like a tiny monument to human grit. You're itching to pick it up, but Ara's already moving, carrying the cooled bowls to a patch of ground near her family's hut. The river is a distant murmur now, and the village is quieter, save for the occasional crackle of a fire or a kid whining about bedtime. You follow Ara, your eyes locked on that bowl, because this is where it gets real. It's time to put this thing to work, holding seeds and cooking porridge for her family. Ara sets the bowl down on a flat stone, and you crouch beside her, feeling the weight of this moment. She's not just showing off, she's testing her invention. You watch as she pours a handful of wild barley grains into the bowl, the tiny seeds rattling like beads. It holds, no cracks, no leaks. You're grinning like you made it yourself, but Ara's all business, inspecting the bowl like it's got to pass a Neolithic quality check. This is why she made it, to store food securely, to keep her family fed through lean days. You imagine her relief. Nomadic life meant carrying everything, but now, with this bowl, she can stay put, plan ahead, maybe even dream a little bigger. Here's the historical anchor. Ceramic bowls like this one, born around 10,000 BC in the Middle East and East Asia, were a cornerstone of the Neolithic shift from wandering to settled life. They let people store surplus food like grains and cook complex meals like porridge that fueled growing communities. But here's a quirky tidbit. Some early bowls were decorated with simple patterns, maybe pressed with fingers or sticks, not just for beauty, but possibly to mark ownership. You notice faint lines on Ara's bowl, like she dragged a twig across it. Is it art, a signature, or just her being extra? You're not sure, but it's got character. Ara's not done. She carries the bowl to a small fire pit near her hut, where a pot of water simmers, bits of grain and herbs floating in it. You're hit with the smell, earthy, warm, like oatmeal, but wilder. She scoops some of this proto-porridge into the bowl, and you're mesmerized. It's not just food, it's a statement. This bowl can handle heat, hold liquid, feed her kids without falling apart. You're tempted to ask for a taste, but you're pretty sure Neolithic table manners don't include guest spoons. Instead, you watch her family gather. 2 kids, a guy who's probably her partner, and an older woman who's definitely judging your lumpy bowl from earlier. They're sharing this meal, and you feel the warmth of it, not just from the fire, but from the way they sit close, passing the bowl around. Historians still argue whether ceramic bowls were mainly for storage or cooking first, or if their use evolved together. Did Ara prioritize keeping seeds safe, or was she dreaming of hot meals? You watch her family eat, and it feels like both, utility and comfort in one simple shape. You're struck by how this bowl changes the rhythm of their day. No more eating on the go or losing grain to flimsy baskets. You joke to yourself, this is the Neolithic equivalent of a meal prep container, except Ara's not posting it on Instagram with #homesteadgoals. The night's deep now, the sky a scatter of stars, and you're feeling the pull of sleep. Ara's family is still eating, the bowl passing from hand to hand, and you notice how it's already part of their routine, like it's always been there. You think back to that riverbank clay, the fire's heat, how something so simple took so much to create. Your own bowl, still cooling by the fire, might not be as pretty, but it's yours, a piece of this moment. You wonder what Ara's thinking. Does she know this invention will ripple across centuries? Probably not. She's just focused on her kids not spilling the porridge. You smile, imagining a future where her bowl sits in a museum, labeled Artifact Number 472. For now, it's just dinner, and that's enough.
You're still in Ara's Mesopotamian village, the night air cool against your skin as the stars burn bright above, like scattered embers from a cosmic fire. The bowl, that simple clay creation, sits in the center of her family's circle, holding steaming porridge that smells like earth and comfort. You're watching them eat, The kids giggling as they scoop with their fingers, the older woman grumbling about manners, or maybe about the porridge's texture. It's hard to tell without subtitles. Ara's partner passes the bowl to her, and she cradles it like it's more than just clay. You're starting to see it too. This isn't just a dish, it's a game changer, reshaping how this village lives, eats, and plans. You're itching to explore what this means for them, how one bowl can ripple through their daily grind. The village is quiet now, most folks tucked into their reed and mud huts, but Ara's family lingers by the fire, the bowl's still in use. You notice how it's become a hub, a reason to gather, to share. Before this, meals were probably quick, eaten from baskets or straight off the ground, grains scattered or lost. Now they've got this sturdy vessel, holding enough for everyone. You imagine Ara's relief. She can store seeds without worrying about rats or rain, cook porridge without burning through flimsy containers. It's a small thing, but it's freedom, letting her family stay rooted to this riverbank instead of chasing the next hunt. Here's the historical core. Ceramic bowls, like Ara's, were pivotal around 10,000 BC, enabling settled communities to store surplus food and cook reliably, which supported population growth and village life. That's the textbook stuff. But here's a quirky tidbit. Some early potters might have used their bowls for rituals, not just food, maybe offering grains to the gods or spirits. You glance at Ara, wondering if she's poured a little porridge out for the river gods just in case. Her practical vibe says no, but there's a faint carving on the bowl's rim, a spiral, maybe a prayer. It's got you curious. You wander a bit, still in Ara's orbit, noticing how the village is changing. Nearby, another family is using a similar bowl, this one chunkier, maybe an early prototype. Someone's grinding grain with a stone, the rhythmic scrape blending with the fire's crackle. You realize the bowl's impact goes beyond Ara's hut. It's letting people store more, cook more, share more. Kids aren't just eating, they're growing stronger, maybe even outliving the winters that used to claim them. You joke to yourself, this bowl's basically the Neolithic version of a fridge, except it's fireproof and doesn't need a power outlet. Try fitting that in a tiny apartment. Historians still argue whether the spread of pottery like this sparked settlement, or if settlement demanded pottery first. Did Ara's bowl come because her people chose to stay, or did it convince them staying was possible? You watch your family, their faces lit by the fire, and it feels like a feedback loop. Bowls and villages growing together, each making the other stronger. You're tempted to ask Ara, but she's busy wiping porridge off her kid's face, and you're not sure she'd get the chicken or egg metaphor anyway. You notice the village's rhythm shifting. People are planning now. Someone's sorting seeds into another clay bowl, another stacking firewood for tomorrow's cooking. It's not just about survival, it's about building something. You think back to that riverbank clay, how it felt under your fingers and the fire that hardened it. That bowl's changed more than meals. It's changed time itself, giving Ara's people a future to plan for. You imagine her teaching others, maybe that kid who made the lumpy clay blob earlier, passing the trick along. It's not just a tool, it's a legacy, one you're weirdly proud to have witnessed. The fire's dying now, and you're feeling the weight of the night, your eyes heavy as the village settles. Ara's family is cleaning up, the bowl emptied and wiped clean with a reed. You're struck by how ordinary this feels, yet how monumental. Your own bowl, still cooling somewhere, might never hold porridge, but it's part of this story. You grin, thinking of it sitting in a museum someday, labeled Amateur Attempt 10,000 BC. For now, you're content to linger here, the fire's warmth fading, the bowl's promise growing, carrying this village into a new kind of life.
You're still in the heart of Ara's Mesopotamian village, the night now deep and velvet, wrapping you in a quiet that feels ancient, unbroken except for the soft rustle of reeds and the distant lap of the river. The fire's down to glowing coals, casting a faint red light over Ara's family as they tidy up. The ceramic bowl now empty, sitting like a quiet hero on the stone beside them. You're struck by how this simple thing, this lump of fired clay, has woven itself into their lives, not just holding porridge or seeds,
but carrying the weight of a new way of living. You're ready to step back and see how this invention ripples beyond Ara's hut, how it's reshaping the world one village at a time. Your own bowl, probably still cooling by some forgotten fire, feels like a distant cousin to hers, a small piece of this revolution. You wander through the village, the air cool and thick with the scent of earth and smoke. Other families are using bowls now, some holding grains, others cradling embers to keep fires alive through the night. You see a woman teaching her daughter to shape clay, their hands moving in sync, just like you and Ara earlier. It's spreading, knowledge, not just tools. The bowl's changing everything, how people eat, how they store, how they stay. Before, food was fleeting, grabbed on the move or lost to the elements. Now, with these bowls, they can save, plan, settle. You imagine Ara's village growing, maybe into a town someday, all because of this one idea. You chuckle to yourself, forget blockchain, this is the original disruptive tech. Here's the solid fact. Ceramic bowls emerging around 10,000 BC in places like Mesopotamia and East Asia were a linchpin of the Neolithic Revolution, letting people store surplus and cook reliably, which anchored communities and spurred growth. But here's a quirky tidbit. Some early bowls were found with traces of ancient beer, suggesting they weren't just for porridge. People might have been brewing before they were baking. You glance at a nearby hut, wondering if someone's fermenting something sneaky in one of Ara's bowls. Probably not, but the thought makes you grin. You pause by a cluster of huts, watching a group of villagers trade goods, flint tools, woven mats, and, yes, a clay bowl, passed carefully like it's worth its weight in gold. It's not just utility, it's status, a sign you're part of this new, settled life. Historians still argue whether pottery like this spread through trade routes or popped up independently, as people everywhere got the same bright idea. Did Ara's village spark a trend, or are others out there, by other rivers, shaping their own bowls? You don't know, but you feel the momentum here, like a wave building. The village feels alive, even in the quiet. A man stacking bowls near his hut, maybe planning to trade them for extra grain. A kid's playing with a broken shard, scraping patterns in the dirt. Future artist or just bored? You're tempted to join him, but you're too caught up in the bigger picture. These bowls are knitting this community together, making life less precarious. You think back to that riverbank, the clay under your nails, the fire's heat. It's all led here, to a village that's starting to feel permanent, rooted. You joke to yourself, Ara's basically the Steve Jobs of clay, and this bowl's her iPhone, simple, revolutionary, and about to go viral. As the night deepens, your steps slow, the village fading into a soft blur. The stars are brighter now, and the air feels heavier, pulling you towards sleep. You imagine Ara's bowl and others like it spreading beyond this river, carried by traders or copied by neighbors. It's not just a tool, it's a story, one that'll outlive this village, these people, even you. Your eyes are heavy, the coals glow a gentle lullaby. You're ready to drift, to let the story carry you into a softer, quieter place, where the river still hums and the clay holds strong.
You're sinking now, the village slipping away like a dream you can't quite hold. The river's song fades, softer, slower, blending with the whisper of reeds in the breeze. Ara's bowl rests by her hut, its curves catching the last flicker of starlight, a quiet promise of tomorrow. You feel the earth beneath you, cool and steady, grounding you as the world grows distant. The fire's gone out, but its warmth lingers in your chest, a reminder of what hands can build, what minds can dream. Let the stars blur above. Let the night wrap you in its calm. You're safe here, carried by the story of a woman, a river, and a bowl that changed everything. Sleep now, gently, as the ancient world fades to a whisper. Sweet dreams.